You're tuned in to Crime on the Menu, where we serve up the country's most shocking and bizarre food crimes. In today's story, it's one that never made the headlines the way it should have. Back in late 2024, an outbreak of E. coli quietly spread through 15 states. People were getting sick, and one person lost their life. The source was traced back to romaine lettuce. But here's where things get strange. The FDA figured out exactly where it came from and chose not to tell the public. No warning, no recall, no name, just silence. Grab a seat because this story hasn't been cleared from the table. The first signs showed up in early of November of 2024. A group of students in Missouri got violently ill after eating at a school event. Within days, similar reports were coming out of Indiana, then Illinois, then Florida. It wasn't a coincidence. The same strand of E. coli was popping up across the country. By mid-December, the CDC confirmed that this was a multi-state outbreak. 15 states, 89 confirmed cases, 36 hospitalized, and tragically, one person died. Investigators traced it back to bagged romaine lettuce. And here's where it gets strange. By the time the FDA had confirmed the source, they decided not to say who it was. They closed the case. No recall, no warning to the public. They just moved on. If you bought lettuce during that time, there was no way to know. The people affected had no idea that they were eating something dangerous until it was already too late. It's easy to hear a number like 89 and move on. But when you zoom in, it stops being a statistic and starts becoming a person. One of the earliest victims was a 9-year-old boy from Indiana. His name was Colton George. He spent his 10th birthday in a hospital bed, hooked up to dialysis, after eating a salad that no one knew was contaminated. His kidneys were shutting down, he couldn't walk, and his parents, they had no clue what was happening until the diagnosis came back days later: E. coli infection. Colton survived, but barely, and his recovery isn't over. He still deals with fatigue, stomach pain, and trauma from what happened. And then there's the person who didn't survive. No name was released, no public obituary, just one fatality buried inside an FDA document. That's what silent cost. Not just accountability, but closure. By the time the CDC confirmed this was a multi-state outbreak, the FDA had already done their homework. They traced the contamination back to a specific farm, right down to the lot where the romaine lettuce was grown. And then they sealed the file. No company was ever named, no brand issued a recall. The farm's identity was blacked out in the official documents, protected under something called confidential commercial information. The FDA decided that since the contaminated lettuce was no longer on the shelves, there was no need to alert the public. No warning, no accountability, just a quiet decision to protect the source instead of the people. And here's the kicker. This isn't just an isolated case. This is something the FDA has done before. This wasn't just about romaine lettuce. It was about what happens when the system designed to protect us chooses to protect brands instead. Because this isn't the first time the FDA has gone quiet. In 2018, there was another outbreak tied to leafy greens, and again, no one was named until the public pushed for answers. Each time it happens, there's a reason. Not a medical one, an economic one. When outbreaks are traced back to major suppliers, names like Taylor Farms, Fresh Express, Dole, there's more at stake than just reputation. These companies supply natural grocery chains, fast food restaurants, even school lunches. If a farm is publicly named, it could trigger lawsuits, contract losses, stock dips. So instead of telling people where the contaminated food came from, they redact it, hid it, and call it protecting commercial confidentiality. But here's the question. If a company sends out contaminated food that makes people sick, why do they deserve protection? Shouldn't we at least have the right to know what we're eating? Let's talk about patterns. This outbreak in 2024, It's a part of a long-running issue tied specifically to leafy greens, especially romaine lettuce. Since 2006, there have been over 40 separate outbreaks linked to bag salads and greens. Romaine alone has been connected to at least 20 of these. Contamination can happen anywhere in the process, on the farm, in the water, during packaging or transport. And because greens are eaten raw, there's no cooking step to kill bacteria like E. coli. In other words, once it's contaminated, that's it. It goes straight to your plate. And if the system meant to catch that contamination stays quiet, you'll never know until it's too late. Every time one of these outbreaks happens, agencies promise reforms, more testing, stricter inspections, but here we are again, years later, with another closed investigation, no names and no warning. Before we wrap it up, quick shout out to one of our proud supporters of Crime on the Menu, Salad Bowl Cafe. They're not open just yet, but trust me, when they are, it's gonna be worth the wait. They're all about clean, local ingredients, microgreen salads, and a menu that actually respects your plate. It's refreshing to see a food spot focus on transparency and quality from the jump, something we clearly don't get enough of in this industry. Keep an eye out for their opening. You're going to want to check them out. We hear a lot about transparency and food safety, but what happens when the people we trust to protect us decide it's way better we stay in the dark? One death, dozens hospitalized, and the farm responsible, still unnamed, still protected. This wasn't just a failure of food safety, it was a decision. And it reminds us that when it comes to the truth behind what we eat, sometimes we have to dig it for ourselves. Thanks for tuning in to Crime on the Menu, where we don't just tell food stories, we uncover the ones they'd rather you ignore. If you want more stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification button right here on YouTube. And if you're following along on Facebook, make sure you hit that follow and turn on updates. I'll be posting exclusive content there too. Thanks for watching.